Hello everyone and welcome to my The Bold Fans channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Steffy Forrester Finnegan has spent the past few weeks navigating the debris of her own decisions with a combination of calculation and tiredness. The night with Carter, the pregnancy, the forced disclosures, Sheila's public involvement, and the gradual breakdown of both her and Carter's marriages have left her with fewer safe harbors than she has ever had. In that limited landscape, she makes one final, disastrous mistake. Believing that sexual reconnection with Finn may yet provide a way back to the life she is losing, she initiates intimacy at the Cliff home on a night when the children are with Taylor and the house is silent. The interaction starts with the typical jargon of attempted repair. It concludes with a single spoken name, thereby ending the marriage's chances. Steffy mentions Carter's name in the middle of the performance. The moment is quick and irreversible. Finn freezes. The name hangs in the air between them, as clear as a recorded confession. Steffy detects the inaccuracy a quarter of a second too late. The apology that follows is immediate, disjointed, and ineffective. Finn doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't demand an explanation. He simply withdraws, physically first and then completely. Finn is already dressed and on his way out the door before Steffy can form a coherent statement about stress, perplexity, and the leftover trauma of the previous weeks. The conversation that might have followed never happened. The moniker has performed the function of a full confession more effectively than any properly phrased admission could have. What makes the error so catastrophic is the setting in which it occurs. Finn has already learned about the affair, the pregnancy, and the subsequent silence. He's already started the process of emotional and logistical separation. The decision to enable physical contact on this particular night was not indicative of renewed trust. It was a final, reluctant test to see if any form of the marriage could still function on a fundamental human level. Steffy's unintentional mention of Carter's name provides a definitive answer to the test. The body that was supposed to be reclaiming a shared history is still possessed by another person's memory. The discovery necessitates no more examination. The evidence is presented in the most intimate conceivable environment. Finn responds immediately with a quiet that is more total than any prior withdrawal. He doesn't return to the guest room. He departs the Cliff house completely, taking only what he needs for the next few days. Communication about the children is limited to brief logistical notes. Steffy's attempts to renew the topic are greeted with a single reiterated boundary. There is nothing else to talk. The name has closed the file. What remains is the practical process of separating two lives that can no longer communicate privately. Steffy's mental reckoning begins when the door closes behind him. She has spent weeks dealing with external effects such as Daphne's explosion, Sheila's exposure, Ridge's oversight, and professional limits at Forrester Creations. This latest failure is unique. It isn't a secret that someone else discovered. It was a reality she spoke into the only remaining place dedicated just to her marriage. Anyone who has lived through extended periods of deception is familiar with the psychological mechanism. When under pressure, the mind seeks unresolved emotional business rather than the connection that is intended to be repaired. Carter's name comes up because the unresolved past with him has never been adequately concluded. The attempt to utilize sexual connection with Finn as a type of erasing is met with the realization that erasure is impossible. The secondary ramifications spread outward with predicted pace. Taylor learns about the incident the next day, thanks to Steffy's weary admission. Her reply is a complex combination of maternal support and an objective assessment of the damage. She does not underestimate the importance of the spoken name. She does not abandon her daughter. The chat that follows is one of the few instances in which Steffy can talk without immediate strategic consideration. Even there, the boundaries are evident. Taylor can provide presence. She cannot undo the effect the name has already had. Ridge receives the information from the same family network that has been monitoring the crisis throughout its duration. His response is institutional, rather than emotional. He notices the ongoing erosion of Steffy's personal stability and modifies her job obligations appropriately. The company continues to operate under the temporary protocols in place. The most recent development only shows that such protocols will need to be in place for longer than originally anticipated. Ridge doesn't try to arbitrate between Steffy and Finn. The marriage has progressed beyond the point where external intervention can change its course. Carter learns about the incident through secondary means within 48 hours. The realization arrives with a distinct sense of frightened recognition. He understands right away what the uttered name means about the unfinished emotional residue of their encounter. He also realizes that all chance of limiting the damage to the initial night and the pregnancy is now gone. Steffy's error has turned a private failing into a recurring psychological fact that Finn will never be able to forget. Carter's own position, which is already extremely constrained inside the corporation and completely separated from Daphne, gains an extra layer of isolation. He is no longer just the man with whom Steffy broke her vows. He is also the man whose name she mentioned while seeking to mend them. When Daphne receives the facts, she reacts coldly, confirming every conclusion she has already reached. The pregnancy, the continued secrecy, and now the evidence that Steffy's mental and physical attention is still intertwined with Carter all make one continuous storyline. There is no account of events in which the original night is described as a single, contained lapse. The stated name during intercourse with Finn demonstrates that the tie was never completely severed. Daphne's decision to end all future interactions with Carter becomes permanent. The marriage is no longer being negotiated. In practical terms, the separation is complete, with just the formal formalities remaining to make it legally binding. Finn's long-term response adopts a rigorous, even clinical form. He provides a regular presence for Kelly and Hayes. He communicates with Steffy only as much as is necessary to handle logistics. He refuses any invitations to discuss the emotional content of his marriage. Friends and family who try to encourage discourse are faced with the same barrier. The necessary information has already been provided. There is no additional talk that can change the meaning of the name spoken at that instant. The position is not dramatic. It is the position of a man who has reached the limit of what he is ready to tolerate, and has determined that additional involvement will only exacerbate the damage. Inside Forrester Creations, the atmosphere absorbs the most recent development as another source of instability. Staff who have been navigating the restricted interaction regulations between Steffy and Carter have seen a further cooling of Steffy's public presence. Will and RJ, who are still dealing with the aftermath of their own disagreement over the youth line exposure, see the continuous personal crises as further proof that the company's internal culture is incapable of absorbing its complexities. Electra continues to observe the grown-ups around her with the care of someone documenting the expenses of uncontrolled private history. Katie calculates the changing balances of influence without remark. Sheila, whose public revelation of the previous affair set the final sequence in motion, greets the news of Steffy's latest error with the placid satisfaction of someone watching a structure crumble in predictable fashion. She does not intervene any further. She doesn't need to. The spoken name has caused more damage than any extra information she could provide. Finn's complete departure eliminates the main impediment to her long-term ambition of maternal access. Finn's continued refusal to translate that withdrawal into an opening for Sheila is a secondary annoyance she is willing to deal with over time. The pregnancy remains the unsolved biological fact at the heart of the disaster. Questions about paternity, Steffy's intentions prior to the disclosures, and the child's potential role in the damaged adult relationships continue to spark secondary conflict. Finn's viewpoint is clear. He will not take part in any fiction that asks him to perform further emotional effort. Carter's situation is hampered by a near-complete loss of status in both his personal and professional lives. Steffy's position is determined by the limiting of alternatives that has resulted from recurrent failures of judgment. The infant will arrive in a landscape already sculpted by the events of the night that generated it, as well as the subsequent night when its father's name was spoken in the wrong bed. What elevates the error above typical soap opera disaster is the precision with which the remaining doors are shut. Physical closeness was the last uncharted realm where reconnection might yet be possible. The uttered name transforms that territory into another evidence of incomplete entanglement. Finn doesn't have to question if Steffy's mind and body have completely left the other relationship. The response was given involuntarily, at a time when control was expected to be minimal. The marriage, which was previously reduced to logistics, is now reduced much further, to a set of parental tasks that will be fulfilled without any residual claim to shared private life. In the weeks that follow, Steffy employs the only remaining method of damage control: complete constancy in her public and parental responsibilities. She is not interested in continuing the chat with Finn. She makes no attempt to re-engage Carter beyond the minimal professional interaction that is still required. She accepts Ridge's rigid schedule and the careful distance that the rest of the family has begun to maintain. The performance is disciplined yet incomplete. The name continues to occupy the place where an alternative future may have been built. The Bold and the Beautiful has always specialized in the moment when a character's final attempt at healing becomes the catalyst for permanent rupture. Steffy's decision to seek physical reconnection with Finn, as well as the inadvertent truth revealed during the effort, are part of that tradition. The error is more than just the uttered name. It is the assumption that the body can be used to erase a past that the intellect has never quite closed. Finn overheard the name. He grasped its meaning. He departed. Everything that comes after will be defined by the knowledge that the final potential private language between them was shattered by a single word that could not be taken back. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers suggest that Steffy Forrester is about to make one of her most startling mistakes yet. Steffy has always attempted to portray herself as a lady who understands exactly what she wants, particularly in her marriage to Finn. But what happens when one emotional misstep reveals sentiments she has frantically attempted to suppress? A horrifying scenario may play out in which Steffy sleeps with Finn, only to make the disastrous error of shouting out another man's name in the heat of the moment. That name may be Carter Walton. Steffy would face far-reaching consequences. Finn wouldn't just hear a random name. He would hear the name of a man who may represent everything Steffy had been trying to avoid thinking about. If Carter has been keeping those feelings hidden, one thoughtless moment might bring them to the surface and disrupt her marriage. Steffy and Finn's relationship has already seen plenty of ups and downs. Their marriage has withstood secrets, family problems, betrayals, misunderstandings, and external intervention. However, often the most dangerous threat to a relationship isn't another individual publicly attempting to split the pair up. Sometimes it is a buried emotion that neither spouse wishes to address. That is what may make this tale so explosive. Imagine Steffy and Finn finally believing they have healed the flaws in their love. They spend time together, reconnect emotionally, and convince themselves that the worst is behind them. Steffy may tell herself that she is entirely dedicated to Finn and that the confusion she has been experiencing lately is simply stress. But emotions are rarely so straightforward. If Carter has suddenly become essential to Steffy, she may not even realize why. Carter may have gained her trust at a time when she sorely needed someone to listen. Perhaps he recognizes a side of Steffy that Finn has struggled to see. Perhaps their chats have gotten more personal than they anticipated. That does not necessarily imply Steffy intended to betray Finn. In fact, this could exacerbate the already painful situation. Steffy may sincerely love her husband while yet experiencing feelings she cannot control. She could insist that Carter is merely a friend and that there is no love relationship between them. However, when emotions are suppressed for an extended period of time, they will occasionally find a way to surface. Calling Carter's name while in intimate contact with Finn would be the ultimate reveal of those concealed emotions. Finn would likely be surprised at first. He may doubt if he heard correctly. Steffy could immediately recognize what she had done and try to undo it, but the damage was already done. There would be no simple explanation. Steffy could say she was puzzled, fatigued, emotional, or overwhelmed. She can argue that uttering Carter's name meant nothing. But Finn would have a terrible time believing it. The question would quickly arise. Why Carter? That one question has the potential to consume Finn. For Steffy, the consequences could be even worse. She might realize she had made a mistake, but she might also be pushed to address something she has been avoiding. Why did Carter's name come to me at such a personal moment? Perhaps Steffy has been thinking about Carter much more than she admits. Perhaps their relationship has escalated into something deadly. Or perhaps Steffy made an innocent error due to emotional confusion. Finn would most certainly struggle to get past it. The bold and the beautiful thrives on complex romantic triangles, and this situation may result in an unexpected one. Steffy and Finn have long been presented as a powerful relationship, but bringing Carter into their emotional orbit might change everything. Carter isn't the type of man Steffy would expect to cause problems in her marriage. That is exactly why the plot might work so nicely. Steffy may not recognize him as a threat until it's too late. Maybe Carter was there for her during a difficult time. Perhaps he did listen when she felt misunderstood. Perhaps their chats became more personal without each of them realizing where the relationship was headed. Initially, Steffy could dismiss the attraction. She might tell herself that she adores Finn and sees no reason to seek elsewhere. She can even grow furious with herself for recognizing Carter in a different way. However, attraction does not always diminish just because someone refuses to acknowledge it. This could also explain why Steffy's mistake involves Finn rather than Carter. She might be attempting to convince herself that her marriage is stronger than ever. She may want closeness with Finn in order to remove Carter from her mind. Unfortunately, her subconscious might betray her. One murmured name might shatter the illusion. Finn would most likely be distraught because the situation would make him rethink everything. Was Steffy thinking of Carter before? Is there something she's been hiding? Were their interactions truly innocent? Did Steffy compare him to Carter? Finn might start reviewing every recent discussion and suspicious event. Things that appeared to be innocent could suddenly take on a whole new meaning. Finn could question why Steffy has recently defended Carter. If she had spent more time with him, Finn might have questioned what had happened. If she became unusually upset whenever Carter's name was mentioned, Finn would realize he overlooked the warning flags. The situation could turn into a nightmare for all involved. Meanwhile, Carter might be unaware of what has occurred. If he has affections for Steffy, discovering that she mistakenly called his name while with Finn could lead to an entirely new situation. He might question if Steffy secretly feels the same way. That might place Carter in an extremely uncomfortable situation. Will he tell Steffy he has feelings for her? Will he separate himself out of respect for her marriage? Or would he see her error as a sign that they had a genuine connection? The response could influence where the tale goes next. Steffy may urgently try to prevent Finn from facing Carter. She may claim that Carter had nothing to do with their marriage and that the name just slipped out. However, Finn may not be willing to accept that explanation. He might confront Carter personally. That showdown might be combustible because Carter may be taken off guard. Finn could accuse him of becoming too close to Steffy, but Carter could argue that he never knowingly crossed a limit. If Carter has feelings for Steffy, Finn may be able to detect them. And if Finn feels that Carter's sentiments are reciprocated, the situation might become far more perilous. Steffy would be caught between two realities. On one side is Finn, the husband she has battled so hard to keep. On the other side is Carter, an unexpected man who may have awoken emotions she never expected to feel. The most intriguing aspect of this potential narrative is that Steffy does not necessarily want to choose Carter. She could just want her marriage back. But Finn might be unable to forget what happened. Trust is fragile, especially following a mistake that appears to disclose hidden emotions. Even if Steffy never physically betrayed Finn to Carter, he may still feel betrayed emotionally. He might ask if she's been thinking about Carter. Steffy might hesitate, and that hesitancy could reveal more than any confession. If she quickly answers no, Finn may question why she mentioned Carter's name. If she admits to being puzzled, Finn may be even more sad. Steffy's biggest issue would be expressing something she might not fully comprehend herself. She might love Finn. She might want her marriage. She could regret what happened. Nonetheless, Carter's presence may have had an impact on her. This is where the bold and the beautiful might develop a strong emotional plotline rather than just another affair tale. The actual struggle would be within Steffy's heart. She must decide if she is willing to be entirely honest about her feelings or continue to pretend that nothing is occurring. Finn would have to determine whether he could forgive her. Forgiveness may not come soon. Finn could become distant. He may sleep in another room or avoid being alone with Steffy. Their home may suddenly feel cold and uncomfortable. Every attempt Steffy makes to mend their relationship may remind Finn of the name he overheard. Steffy might implore him to accept that she made a terrible mistake. Finn might repeatedly ask her the same question. Why Carter? This query could become the emotional focus of the story. Steffy may not have an answer. And maybe it is what worries her the most. Meanwhile, Carter could find himself in an unexpected predicament. If he cares about Steffy, he might feel guilty. He would understand that her marriage is already in peril, and he might hesitate to take advantage of the situation. However, if Steffy comes to him looking for consolation, Carter may find it increasingly difficult to maintain distance. That would set up another harmful emotional barrier. Steffy may seek out Carter simply because she needs someone to talk to. She can tell herself that she wants information, not romance. However, Carter's presence may muddle her sentiments even more. Finn may eventually discover that Steffy has been meeting Carter discreetly. Even if nothing physical occurred, the secrecy would be appalling. The issue could quickly turn into a full-fledged marital crisis.